This is CBC Here and Now.
My name's Tremaine Clark and I've been staying in Pippi Park in my tent with my dog.
From a homeless shelter to living in a tent, his 7-month struggle to find an apartment in St. John's.
The Premier's office is up there on the 8th floor, and right now it's occupied by Liberal Andrew Furey. But Lloyd Parrott wants to evict him.
I'm in, and I'm in 100%, and I'm in it to win it.
I'm Terry Roberts. We'll have that story coming up.
Last month, the federal government slashed funding to Easter Seals summer programming by 55%. But that ship has been righted. I'm Jeremy Eaton. I'll have that story coming up on Here and Now.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. I'm Carolyn Stokes. Well, tonight we're tackling affordable housing. Tremaine Clark has spent the last 7 months looking for a place to live. It took hundreds of messages to landlords, a groundswell of support from a community of dog lovers, plus stints at the Gathering Place, a hotel, and multiple campsites. But after searching since last December, Clark and his dog Buddy have finally landed a new apartment.
My name's Tremaine Clark and I've been staying in Pippi Park in my tent with my dog. I was working for an offshore company a couple years back, and we were going out to do a forklift course. The driver turned left on oncoming traffic. He didn't see the SUV because it was early morning and the sun was in his eyes, and it struck me on my side. So I've been dealing with that. When I went to the Gathering Place, just using their services and whatnot, just trying to get on my feet. And I was there for 5 months looking for apartments and stuff. Just with the highs and lows of everybody in there, it's, you know, it was kind of difficult. I spent 5 months there and it's not fit. Now, don't get me wrong, the services are great. They are helping me look for places, and they're coming out and they're giving me ice and like food if I ask for it and whatnot. But it's just not fit. The shelter center, like I've seen drugs, blood, needles, people smoking, drugs. Like it's not a place for, right? Many. As soon as I had the chance to get a tent, I was gone. There's a couple other people here, yes. Pretty much same situation, just different scenario. Why they're become homeless, but yes, there's 3 others here. I just want to, you know, live a normal life, go to school, get a trade, like, you know. But you can't do that when you don't have a proper place, right? I can't leave my dog in a tent, in a crate or anything while I go to work, like, you know what I mean? I don't want to foster him because that's taking away him from me, and I need him. He's all I got left, so I need a chance. I need a break. Like, that's all. I just need a place to call home, really. Right? I need a routine for my dog, me. Like, you know, someone to give me a break, that's all. I don't know if they were waiting, they were following my story, I don't know, but everything happened for a reason, so here I am. I feel fantastic, it's amazing. I'm overwhelmed. There's so many people supporting me. It just feels amazing that I didn't give up, and this is where I am. My next step is try to find a part-time job or get on the go with my GED and just go from there. Sky's the limit. Like, let's do it. Right? You know what I mean?
Well, Clark described some of the difficult conditions he experienced at the Gathering Place shelter. Today, the head of the Gathering Place, Paul Davis, says the shelter is not a long-term solution for anyone.
Shelter is set up as a temporary overnight emergency shelter where people can come for a night or 2 nights until they get straightened away. or find an alternative to whatever their circumstance happens to be. The reality of it is that people end up here for many, many nights. And as you can see, congregate space that we have here, many bunks in a single room, is certainly not ideal for one night. It's certainly not ideal if someone is here for 50 nights or 60 nights or 100 nights. And it can become, less of an offering as time goes on. It can become more difficult to stay in a space like this for a long period of time.
We'll return to this story in about 25 minutes. We'll explore what's driving the rental shortage and the impact it's having on homeless shelters.
Well, we're into July now, so I thought we'd take a look back at what happened through the month of June. It does look, or it was, warm for most of June and most of the island, except, or rather most of the province, except for Lab West, unfortunately, where you saw some cooler, less ideal conditions certainly in June. But we are looking ahead, I should say, to July, and it's looking like the long-range models are pointing at about 100% chance that we'll see above seasonable conditions through a good chunk of July, and it will likely continue. Now, the reason why we've been seeing this is this consistent southwesterly flow for a good chunk of the province. If you take a look at temperatures today, right around where we should be sitting, in fact, a little bit above that through central, 23 degrees in Badger today. Temperatures a lot cooler, though, up across Labrador, 12 degrees in Lab City. The temperatures are warming right as we head towards the weekend as well. I'll get into the full forecast coming up.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, we have an update tonight on a story we reported last month when the not-for-profit Easter Seals lost 55% of its federal funding for summer programming. Now, last week, Easter Seals heard from MP Joanne Thompson, who says the funding will come through for 2022. That means the $25,000 the group was shelling out of its own pocket can go back into fundraising to update the St. John's building and its grounds. It's a major relief for the group. This year's camp sold out in just over an hour. With the financing fiasco behind them, Easter Seals says it can now concentrate on helping others.
We're here for a reason, and that reason is to help families and help kids to be able to have opportunities and to bring smiles to their faces, build their confidence, and provide them with the ability to just accommodate certain things according to their disability, and that's really, really important. So we can concentrate on that and we're not the answer for everyone, but we're the answer for many of them. And so that's really important. So we want to be able to continue to do that and make a difference in people's lives.
We'll have Jeremy Eaton's full interview with Mark Bradbury coming up in about 30 minutes. Well, Bay St. George RCMP issued an unusual warning today to beware of false social media posts about a missing person. Now, according to police, someone is posting on local classified pages about a missing 10-year-old child with autism. Now, that post is being widely shared, but police say it's not true. There's no missing child. No other information is known at this time. And the companies that operate the Hibernia project are being charged for an oil spill back in 2019. That's when about 12,000 liters of oil was spilled, which equals about 75 barrels. Now, the regulating agency, the CNLOPB, says there are 3 charges, one for causing the spill, one for not making sure the work would not cause pollution, and for not following protocols for managing risk. The Hibernia Management and Development Company is scheduled to make a first appearance in court in St. John's on August 24th. Well, nominations don't open until next spring. A new leader won't be crowned for another 466 days. But that's not stopping Lloyd Parrott. The Terra Nova MHA is first out of the gate this week, announcing his intention to seek the PC party leadership. Terry Roberts reports.
Today, I'm announcing my candidacy for leader.
Lloyd Parrott took to social media, turning his sights on the governing Liberals.
It has become more about the individual self-advancement of members than the will of the people.
But also admitting he has some work to do if he hopes to convince party supporters that he's the right person for the job.
Obviously, name recognition is a big part of what's going to happen here. and I need to grow who I am organically across the province and give people an opportunity to know me.
Parrott was first elected in 2019, knocking off the Liberal incumbent in Terra Nova. And when the Liberals put forward a high-profile candidate in last year's election, Parrott survived the challenge. Now, after a career that included service in the Canadian Army, private industry, and volunteer work, the Clarenville resident has set his sights on the party's leadership and the Premier's office.
My campaign is about the province, not about me. And this gives me an opportunity to get out of the gates and show everyone that I don't really care who else is running, that I'm going to make this about them.
Parrott believes the province needs a leader who can relate to the challenges faced by ordinary citizens and feels he is that person. He is promising accountability, transparency, and an emphasis on natural resources.
I would be all in on our offshore resources.
Parrott says the challenge now is for voters to get to know him, and he describes himself as a true conservative. But there's one thing he's not comfortable talking about, including a training accident while he was a soldier that resulted in the loss of one of his legs.
I actually feel that my, the events that I went through have enabled me to become who I am today, and I'm quite proud of who I am.
Parrott has also weighed into the federal leadership contest for the Conservative Party of Canada, pictured here in May at an event hosted by frontrunner Pierre Poilievre. Parrott also met with Jean Charest, but says he is not aligned with any candidate.
My goal certainly is to work with Ottawa, and we need to work with Ottawa, be it a Conservative or a Liberal party.
So far, the only PC caucus member to come out in support of Parrott is Chris Tibbs, but Parrott is confident more will follow.
Privately, I do know that I have support within my caucus, and it's entirely up to them when they come out or if they come out.
The spending cap for PC leadership candidates is $225,000. Now, Lloyd Parrott tells me he believes he can raise enough money to run a quality campaign, but for now he's going to blend his leadership aspirations with his job as the MHA for Terra Nova. Meanwhile, I spoke with interim PC leader David Brazel this afternoon, and he tells me he's seriously considering a leadership bid and will likely make a decision perhaps in September. Terry Roberts, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, taking a look at the temperature trend over the next couple of days for Lab West. It is on the way down, but we do have some warmer air in some cases. I will get into the full forecast coming up.
And have 7 days to remove their gear.
30 years ago,
the lowest level of cod stocks ever recorded.
The cod moratorium. Everything changed.
There's nothing left here anymore.
Generations later, life is still changing. For people, communities, and the ocean. The moratorium. July on CBC Newfoundland and Labrador.
Ashley, I feel kind of like a broken record. Another beautiful day in St. John's. My goodness, we're having some wonderful weather.
Don't jinx it.
Yes, I probably shouldn't say that.
No.
Is it going to change? What does the forecast say about that?
Well, we do have some rain on the way, but it's much needed. We haven't, been talking about the need for some of that rain for sure. And
forest fires,
to
keep
everything at bay. That's right. Yeah. That's how we enjoy the summer for sure. Let's take a look at where we sat today. It was a beautiful day out there. To me, the perfect summer day. Not a whole lot of humidity out there. A little bit of a breeze and a mix of sun and cloud for a good chunk of us. 21 degrees in St. John's today. Those temperatures through Central, similar, a couple of degrees warmer, and then along the south coast, even about 18 degrees in Burgeo today. Temperatures across Labrador, cooler, 12 degrees in Lab City today, 16 in Happy Valley Goose Bay, and then Makkovik, he said around 9 degrees for a good chunk of the afternoon. If you take a look outside, live camera right now, beautiful shot of the Narrows there. 21 degrees is what we're sitting at right now. Humidex only a degree more, feeling like a degree more, 22 with those winds right now out of the west, around 33 kilometers per hour. If we take a look at the dew points right now, that is why they're pretty low, and that is why we're seeing that lack of humidity in most cases. They're going to start to creep up though as we head through the night tonight and into tomorrow. We see some of that moist, or I should say less dry air for sure move in, and that is going to mean we're going to return to some of that humid air, at least humid feeling, not quite as humid as it has been, but you'll certainly start to feel that. It also means that we'll see a return of that fog on the south coast as well. So unfortunately, that will return. It looks like it'll stick around as we head into Thursday as well, eventually drying out for some areas as we head into Friday. Taking a look at the bigger picture right now, we've got an area of low pressure to the north, lots of cloud cover. And then this afternoon, we did see a few showers, spotty showers show up through central and along the northeast coast, but that will eventually end as we head through the night tonight. The future tracker picking that up fairly well. That'll move out over the next few hours. And then not a whole lot happening as we head through the night tonight for a good chunk of the island. Still looking at some unsettled conditions though up across Labrador, partly to mostly cloudy skies. But the big story, or this story I should say, is the rain moving in. By the time we get into the morning hours, the southwest will start seeing those showers, which will eventually be heavy at times as we head into the afternoon. Here's a look at the temperatures tonight. 11 to 13 degrees. Winds will ease on the west coast, but they're going to stay a bit breezy out of the southwest. The further east you go, about 20 to 40 kilometers per hour. Single digit temperatures tonight for most of Labrador. 9 degrees for Happy Valley Goose Bay. Not a whole lot of wind to speak of for you either. Now, Environment Canada has issued a rainfall warning for Port aux Basques, Burgeo area. We're talking about 40 to as much as 60 millimeters of rain falling from tomorrow morning through Thursday afternoon. And then we're going to see pretty much the western half of the island seeing somewhere between 20 to 30 millimeters of rain. This model only takes us to about Thursday morning, despite what that says. So we'll probably see another 10 millimeters for the Avalon on top of what you're seeing there. So to time that all out for tomorrow, showers will arrive in the morning. They'll start to get heavy at times as we head into the afternoon. They'll spread further east and further north through the day as well. Lab City and really Lab West is looking at the chance of showers as well, although not nearly as heavy as what we're going to see across the island. Now we may see a few showers for the eastern half of the island through the day, but the heavier rain will arrive as we head through the overnight and into Thursday morning. And eventually that rain will end along the south coast. Area of low pressure still spinning to the south, but we won't see as much precipitation from that. As far as temperatures go tomorrow, they should be hovering somewhere between 20 to 22 degrees, with those winds again still between 20 and 40 kilometers per hour, a little cooler in that onshore flow along the south coast. And then for through central Newfoundland, between 22 and 23 degrees. Harbour Breton, you'll sit around 17 degrees. Again, RDF, the story for you tomorrow. As you head towards the west coast, similar story as far as winds go, but you'll see those clouds on the increase through Corner Brook, and then eventually some showers and rain will move in. And most of the day for the northern peninsula actually looking pretty beautiful. Sunshine and 20 degrees for St. Anthony. You'll see that rain arrive later on in the day. As far as Labrador goes, other than a few showers, you should see some sun peek out. The sun peek out through the afternoon as well. Those winds will shift a little bit for you. So temperatures will be sitting somewhere between 13 and 19 degrees, a little bit cooler as we head through the end of the week, but I'll get into the long range forecast coming up.
Well, a runner from this province had an impressive performance this past weekend in the grueling 100-mile Quebec Mega Trail Race. 27-year-old Kelsey Hogan from Steadybrook was the first female finisher and set a new course record. And get this, her time was 28 hours, 18 minutes and 49 seconds. Kelsey joins me now from Fredericton. So congratulations. How are you feeling? Have you recovered yet?
Oh, thank you, Carolyn. Yeah, I'm feeling great. All things considered, my body is tired and sore, but I'm feeling pretty motivated and energized, and my mind is feeling great. I haven't lost any toenails yet. That's a pretty normal thing after running ultras, and my feet and my knees took a beating in this race. But yeah, really, I'm moving pretty well, and I'm feeling very grateful and very happy about the weekend.
You haven't lost any toenails yet. That's a new one. I haven't heard that one. So I'm trying to wrap my head around what it would be like to run for 28 hours. Can you walk me through how in the world you did that?
Oh, that's a great question. I feel pretty lucky to be able to spend 28 hours out in the trail and out in nature. Really, like this race started at 8 p.m. on Friday night, and it was just before the sunset. So we actually had a big clap of thunder, and it was a downpour of rain, and then it cleared, and we had this beautiful double rainbow to start the race. So we started with that epic beginning, and then just got to spend all of that first night traversing these beautiful, scenic and steep and pretty challenging trails. And while you're out there, you get to spend a lot of time sort of with your own thoughts and discovering parts of yourself. And one of the things that I do when I'm out there is really just take it all in. Like, what an amazing experience to see so much of this Charlevoix to Mont Saint Anne trail in just one day. So I'm noticing, the sights and the sounds, like the birds at sunrise, and the views from the tops of the mountain, and the excitement of other people when you get to see them on the trails or at aid stations. So it's a lot to take in and a lot to occupy your mind for that whole time.
Oh, it sounds beautiful, but such a great distance. 100 miles is 160 kilometers. So you basically ran from St. John's to Goobies. So do you stop at all along the way? Do you eat? Do you have bathroom breaks? What about sleep?
Yeah, really, really all important things to think about. And along the way, there are 13 aid stations over the course of 160 kilometers. So there were places to stop, and I carry 2 liters of water on my back. So refill my water bladder and refill the fuel that I carry in my pockets. So I carry lots of snacks in my race vest. And so you're eating constantly along the way to make sure you're fueled up and energized for the race. And then at those aid stations, there are incredibly enthusiastic volunteers who at this race were just top notch. And my family came as my support crew too. So they came all the way from Newfoundland and met me along the way to keep me going throughout this race. And in this one, I didn't sleep. So it was just running that whole time without breaks. And longer races, I might take a nap. But for this one, you're really trying just to get to the finish line.
Can you describe what it was like the moment that you crossed that finish line?
Oh, it was emotional. It was so many feelings. I was just amazed and surprised and overwhelmed and excited and hopeful. And it was just, there was, as I was coming into the finish, they held up the ribbon and there was all these cameras too at the finish line. They made it a really, really big experience. And I could see my family and I could see the race directors there. And just to cross that finish line and hold on to that ribbon was pretty exciting. At that point, I knew that I was in first, and that had been a really big goal for this race. I was hoping to break that course record, and to come through in that speed just felt incredible.
Well, Kelsey, if they could bottle your energy, I would definitely buy some. Congratulations once again on this accomplishment.
Thank you so much, Carolyn. I really appreciate it.
My name's Tremaine Clark, and I've been staying in Pippy Park in my tent with my dog.
We return to our top story just ahead, the impact the rental shortage is having on local shelters and what's driving it.
About 19,000 fishermen and fish plant workers are out of work.
The entire area is off limits to cod fishing
to ensure that the northern cod survives as a species. The proposed compensation is hardly more than welfare.
After the cod moratorium, there was a heaviness around the community and a lot of people left.
Bonavista is one of those rural anomalies.
There's a big resurgence of people coming back.
You have this bucolic surrounding, and then you have somebody that has a whole other concept about color, shape, and form.
People think it's one of probably the premier festivals in the country now.
There's a lot of standing up for our own rights as First Nations.
I happened to see the John Cabot statue, and I immediately was drawn to wanting to do some sort of intervention with it.
Some were not overly comfortable with the idea of covering the statue.
I profoundly believe the contemporary art can contribute to finding pathways forward.
I just want to, live a normal life, go to school, get a trade, you can't do that when you don't have a proper place.
Well, back to tonight's top story. Trey Clark has spent the last 7 months looking for housing and the last 6 weeks living in a tent at Pippi Park. He now has an apartment thanks to some people he met who helped him out, and much of the last 7 months were spent at the homeless shelter at the Gathering Place. Now, the shelter was established 2 years ago. Here and Now's Garrett Berry spoke with the head of the Gathering Place today about how the shelter has been affected by the rental shortage.
Mr. Davis, thank you very much for joining me. I wanted to ask you, more than anything else, we're seeing that it's more challenging for people trying to get into the housing market, trying to get into the rental market. Is that affecting your operations and your clients from
Absolutely. Absolutely does impact our operations and our clients. So here, amongst the many programs and services we have here at the Gathering Place, we actually have 10 staff dedicated case managers. For almost in all the cases, social workers with background, interest, knowledge, and understanding of these types of needs. And all 10 of our case managers deal with individuals on a daily basis on needs of personal needs, everything from housing, could be from income support. We even help people with matters involving like CRA and those types of legal matters. 2 of those case managers are now dedicated to housing. Now they all work on housing issues, but we have 2 who are now dedicated, funded through partnership with End Homelessness St. John's, and they are focused on trying to find housing for those who cannot find housing.
How hard is it right now?
Oh, it's really hard. Oh, very, very hard, and it's it's a very difficult time. The shelter here, as I mentioned to you previously, set up as an overnight emergency shelter. Unfortunately, we end up in circumstances where people are here for many days, weeks, and sometimes many months as we try to find solutions to their housing needs. And sometimes it's a very long time before those solutions can be found.
For a client in that situation, it must be frustrating, it must feel defeating. How do you counsel people who now find themselves basically stuck? Maybe they feel like they're ready to move on, but they just can't.
Yeah, well, in case managers, and I've seen them do this many, many times, on where they are focused on supporting a guest, doing their very best to help them in their circumstances to find solutions. But the reality of it is sometimes those solutions are very difficult to find. So you just think about, you and I both have jobs and we work every day and we have a regular income, and we notice the price of food's going up, and your friends and family, your neighbors and friends will talk about how it's getting more difficult. Price of gas is going up. Well, put yourself in a position of someone who has been struggling for a long time, and all of a sudden all these extra pressures and challenges now come on you. And you're struggling before, but now you're struggling even more so.
Are you seeing people who otherwise you would not expect to see either come through your door or stay a little bit longer because of what we're seeing in the rental market, the housing market? Yeah,
well, I can tell you when I came here, I'm here just over a year now, and I was surprised by the broad range of people that are actually utilizing the services. So we have people here, in their late 20s. 26 is the minimum age for the Gathering Place. But we also have guests who come here who are seniors and are much later in their lives. So it is everything in between. We have people here who are educated, been successful in business, have had very productive lives who, for one reason or another, fall on difficult times, and now they rely on the gathering place for meals, for telephone access, for computer access, for assistance on how to navigate those complex aspects of government and government programs and services, which can be difficult for anybody, but especially more difficult for someone who would find any of those kinds of navigations of services challenging. So there's a broad range of people who come here, and there's lots of them.
How are you then going to be able to keep up with this new demand? I mean, everything is getting more expensive, getting into housing is harder, it puts a lot of burden on you guys.
Yeah, it absolutely does. So, we kind of look at our operation here in two aspects. We have a center upstairs, which is open from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., and we have the shelter down here that's open from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. It's not unusual for us to serve like 200 meals during lunchtime. Lunch here is the main meal of the day. We've had several occasions in the last couple of months where we're up around 240 people who came here for lunch on a given day. Our shelter, we have beds here on the main floor for men. This is the former auditorium of the former school that we're located in. The stage has a barricade across the top, and the stage area is for women. And that's based on demand of service. The primary demand for service is for male, and less so much for females. But we can move bunks around, a little bit. But here in the shelter, when it's full, it's full. And most nights now, it's full.
Clark's story of trying to find a place to live is one of many they're hearing at End Homelessness St. John's, an organization that's trying to ensure everyone can have a place to live. Doug Pawson is the executive director of the group and joins me now. So Doug, what are some of the other stories that you're hearing from people right now who are struggling to find housing?
Yeah, that's a great question, Carolyn. We've been seeing and hearing from many folks who are struggling around the community. People are struggling to manage the rising cost of living. We've seen dramatic increases to costs in food and gas, power, just along with the everyday cost of living. And it's forcing a lot of people to make trade-offs like whether they eat today or how much you can afford to feed their families, whether they pay their rent this month or their power bill next month. And for a lot of folks who've been trying to juggle with these trade-offs, it's catching up to folks, and we're seeing that a lot of fit folks, families, they just can't sustain that rising cost of living, including the added costs that compounds all of this now in our housing market, which is the cost of rents.
How unusual is this to be hearing stories about people who are living in tents?
Yeah, it's something that we might see on the news, coming out of larger cities. Fortunately in St. John's, we haven't had we haven't seen the level of tenting from folks who may be experiencing homelessness cause, encampments. But, it's something that is certainly on our radar and our partners' radars. And, if the need permits, then we'll work towards executing on a plan and implementing a plan. But it's something that, we're not necessarily accustomed to seeing in our communities.
Mm-hmm. And what is driving the rental shortage here right now? Why is it so hard for people to find a place to live?
Yeah, I think there's a few factors. I mean, there's a lot of factors overall, but a few factors that I think I could point to would be, that's driving the shortages. First, St. John's and across the province, there tends to be high rates of home ownership. And so that just means the available supply of rental housing typically is lower than what you might find out elsewhere. Second, we're starting to see a lot more increased investments into existing housing stock from folks who are coming and investing from outside the province. And I think third, a lot of landlords are selling their properties and leaving the rental market altogether. It's a hot housing market, so they're cashing out. And so all of this means that the supply, which was already low to begin with, lower than typical, is really limited. And then when we get these bigger, economic crises happening, it makes it that much more tougher for folks who are living on the margins to begin with.
I heard one person comment that there are a lot of Airbnbs right now, and even something like that could contribute to a shortage in options of places to stay.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's tourism season, so a lot of folks, who've bought properties and and renovated properties for that purpose, that just that just contributes to the factors that lead to the supply shortage that we're seeing.
What do you think the solution is here? What do you think needs to be done to help fix this?
Well, I think, governments across the country, including the federal government and the city of St. John's here, they've declared housing as a human right. And it's this rights-based approach to housing that we subscribe to at End Homelessness St. John's. And it's something that we'd like to hold our elected officials accountable to, especially given the rise of costs, the number of individuals and families who are struggling to find and maintain housing. I think there's really no more tinkering around the edges to the myriad of problems people are facing. We need to see some really bold actions, some structural reforms to our health and social programs. We need to expedite things like the plans to increase minimum wage, and we need targeted investments into affordable housing. Simply put, there's not enough. So to do this, we need all levels of government collaborating together, working together with the private sector, with the community sector, to make sure that housing options are available, and then that we can be better prepared to respond, when market conditions change and a housing crisis is looming.
Well, Doug Pawson, really appreciate your insight into this. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks, Carolyn.
Last month, the federal government slashed funding to Easter Seals summer programming by $25,000. But there's been a reversal. We're going to have an update on that story coming up on Here and Now.
And more on CBC Radio's Newfoundland Morning. The upcoming Ochre Pit Festival will be back in person this year. They'll have more on that. Then on Crosstalk, Adam Walsh is checking in on how Come Home Year 2022 is going so far. He'll speak with Brenda O'Reilly from Hospitality Newfoundland and Labrador.
I'm Jeremy Eaton. Last month, we told you about the federal government's decision to cut about $25,000 of funding from Easter Seals summer programming. But there's been a change of heart. Now, to talk a little bit about the reversal is Easter Seals Newfoundland and Labrador CEO Mark Bradbury. So, Mark, remind us what happened last month.
Our funding was cut about 55% for our Canada Summer Jobs grants that we rely on for hiring summer staff, summer counselors that are post-secondary students really, in order to have the type of skills and capabilities that they have, and they also require for their practical experience. So we're talking nursing students, kinesiology, recreational therapy, and so on, in order to be able to provide the service and care that kids with disabilities need at their summer camps here.
How were you going to make up that lost money?
We were going to have to take funding monies that we've raised for other hopeful projects, such as phase 3 of the capital campaign of the accessible park and playground. And so we have to take monies from things like swings and picnic benches, and have to, maybe even delay a little bit, certainly with the inflation and everything that's been happening. So the last thing we needed was a cut to the kids' camps.
What changed?
We wrote a couple of letters to our local MPs, Seamus O'Regan and Joanne Thompson, and we didn't get much of a response on that. Unfortunately, it was no, sorry, we can't do anything right now. Maybe next year. And so the parents and program advisory committee wrote a letter to the parents to let them know what was happening, but also to assure them that we were not going to cut any positions for camps. We weren't going to slow it down at all. Our registration for our camp actually went out completely within 1 hour after opening. So there was no way we were going to call up parents and say, "Oh, I'm sorry now that we didn't get the funding that we normally rely on." So we took money from elsewhere and put it towards it, and we will continue to do that as long as we could try to afford it, and certainly for this year, 2022. But then after a period of time, with some media attention and so on, they did review it again, and we're very thankful that they reinstated the funding 100%.
How is your group feeling after this reversal?
Oh, we feel great about it. I mean, Easter Seals offer over 20 life-changing programs and services throughout the entire province. But then, the one common thread that Easter Seals offer all across Canada are summer camps. So during the summer, all summer long, we have Camp Bumbleberry, and it's great to have this beautiful playground behind us for them to be able to avail of and not have to wait for a field trip or a bus. And then there's the pavilion right here on the other side of me for outdoor theaters and concerts. And phase 3 is outdoor hardcourt surface area that we're trying to raise money for, which will be able to bring so many of our programs outside, such as the wheelchair basketball and archery and all of these types of things. So it's an opportunity for kids with disabilities and young adults to finally be able to enjoy what camp is all about: campfires, swimming, canoeing, roasting marshmallows on a campfire.
Were there any assurances that this won't happen again in the future?
No, we didn't get any reassurance on that, but we have faith and trust that it won't happen again, and our fingers are crossed. And we'll do our part to try to keep communication open and invite them to come for tours so they can really get a full appreciation of what Easter Seals offer to our population. And I don't just mean the disability community, because it just spreads out so much further than that for everyone, to just such a great thing for all of the population of Newfoundland and Labrador, really.
How good does it feel now to be able just to focus on summer programming and not the funding behind it?
Oh, it's great. We're here for a reason, and that reason is to help families and help kids to be able to have opportunities and to bring smiles to their faces, build their confidence, and provide them with the ability to just accommodate certain things according to their disability, and that's really, really important. So we can concentrate on that and we're not the answer for everyone, but we're the answer for many of them. And so that's really important. So we want to be able to continue to do that and make a difference in people's lives.
Well, you know, we do love gardening advice on Here and Now. Of course, not everyone is working with the same amount of space, but as you're about to hear, you don't need a backyard to have a blooming garden. Even an apartment balcony will do.
If you're first starting off, one of my first tips would be the bigger, the better. So the larger your pots, the more water they're going to retain. If you are balcony gardening, even if you're not facing south, I would suggest that you're going to be watering every day in some capacity. Water just dries out quicker. Certainly you want to be using container soils, so that's just going to have a greater mix of perlite and humus and other water retaining elements within the soil. For some plants that are a little bit more hardy, for instance like ferns, hostas, stuff like that, I sometimes add a little bit more of traditional earth in there as well, because they do tend to like, I find, a little bit of a heavier soil. For the sun, I find things like geraniums, gasnias, virtually anything that says it's going to do okay in full or half sun is going to work fine on your balcony. It's a lot easier to garden for the sun than it is in the shade. So for shade, I find a lot of good plants are hostas, impatiens, ferns, bleeding heart, astilbe, and coleus. Touch base with your condo association or your rental landlord. There's issues potentially based on what you're putting up or how they are anchored to the balcony. So it's just a matter of asking before you act. So over the winter, the main thing you want to do is trim them down, cover them, and place them in a space where they're still receiving as much sunlight as possible. That's helping the roots of the dormant plant just have a little bit more increase in temperature. Once you got the basics, I find it's about making that space your own. It's no different than having a backyard. And I also feel it's something that you can work with what you got. My balcony has a lot of metal railings and beams that allow me to hang things easily versus another balcony may not. It's a process. It's something that we learn over time. It's a skill set. Plants die, that's cycle life, but you're trying to learn to help things grow in the future, which is better for the environment anyways.
Yeah, it's amazing what you can grow in containers. I have a grapefruit plant, and I have 3 grapefruit, and they're about this size. I've been growing them in the kitchen, so I've been growing 3 grapefruit for like a year and a half.
That better be worth the fruit of the labor.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
But you know what? There's just something satisfying about growing something yourself.
Oh, I completely understand. I mean, knowing you and getting into gardening over the last little bit, it is satisfying for sure.
Totally.
Especially when you see them grow.
Yes. Okay, and I also have my blueberries I've been having in the greenhouse are now ripening, so I had a big handful of blueberries last night.
Yummy.
So, anyways, I could go on, but I won't. Tell us about the weather. There's some rain coming.
Yeah, we do have some showers and rain really that's going to move in as we head through the night tonight and then into Thursday as well. Let's take a look at what's going on right now though, because there are a few showers in and around central and the northeast coast there. They're going to work their way further offshore as we head through the next couple of hours. But if I zoom out a little bit, you can see that rain moving in the maritime provinces, and that is going to be our next weather maker. So we'll see those showers head towards the southwest coast by the time we get into the morning. They'll continue through most of Wednesday. And then the eastern half of the island, well, at least the Avalon anyway, we'll start to see that rain arrive through the overnight, which will be heavy at times through a good chunk of Thursday morning. And then eventually that area of low pressure is going to move across the province and then head a little bit further north. So we'll see some lingering shower activity for the northern peninsula, southeastern Labrador, parts of central as well, and eventually we'll see some clearing through the evening hours. So most of us seeing that gray sky through the day on Thursday. Temperatures a bit cooler, between 18 degrees, a little warmer. The further east you go, St. John should hover around 21 degrees on Thursday. Lovely up across Labrador. 20 degrees for Lab City, 21 for Happy Valley, Goose Bay, and then northern areas of Labrador will sit around 12 to 13 degrees through the day. Now, most of Thursday evening, that area of low pressure will still hang around. And as we get into Friday, things will clear out, but they'll still be a bit unsettled. So we're still looking at a mix of sun and cloud or cloudy periods, chance of showers as well. Definitely not out of the question. And even more so as we head into the evening hours as our next area of low pressure moves in. Same thing up across the big land as well. So temperatures on Friday will be much nicer for some areas, between 22 to 23 degrees for central, west coast, 19 in St. John's. South coast, you're looking at that onshore flow continuing through the day on Friday, so about 17 degrees for Port aux Basques. Temperatures will start to dip for Lab City. You're sitting around 15 on Friday. So taking a look at the long range forecast, we're talking teens. High teens, 17 to 19 degrees, a little bit unsettled as we get into Saturday. Sunday looks lovely at this point, though, with some sunshine. For central Newfoundland, you're looking at your 20-degree temperatures sticking around through Saturday, dropping a bit on Sunday, but still in the high teens. And then high teens, the story for western Newfoundland as well. A little bit unsettled on Saturday, but Sunday looks beautiful. Now, as far as eastern Labrador goes, unfortunately, the weekend looks a bit rainy for you. Temperatures in the teens. And then western Labrador, similar forecast with some sun peeking out on Sunday. This was the view for some of you, particularly near Clarenville. Towering cumulus there. Bonnie captured that great shot. If you'd like to share any with us, send them to Facebook, Twitter, or email them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Oh, great shot, Bonnie. Love it.
Love when you can see those in the distance.
Yeah. I should mention that we're heading to Bonavista tomorrow as part of a month of moratorium coverage marking the 30-year anniversary. So I hope you can tune in. We're going to talk about how the town not only managed to survive, but really reinvent itself. So we'll see you tomorrow live from Bonavista. Good night.